The taste of rust clung to the crevices of my teeth as I clung to the highway guardrail, retching. Blood scabs crumbled from under my fingernails and drifted downward. 3 days earlier, when I'd sliced through the nylon rope around my ankles with a shard of glass, I'd thought the worst pain was the raw, mangled flesh. But standing outside the convenience store off Highway 17, my fingers trembling as I dialed the number etched into my memory, I heard the cold, mechanical voice repeat, "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." That's when I understood. True pain seeps from the marrow, a bone-chilling cold of being abandoned by the world, piercing my heart like an icicle, making even breathing feel like shattering. I stared at the darkening number on my phone screen, my mind replaying the thoughts that had kept me alive for 3 years. Mom and Dad are waiting for me, they'll definitely find me. But now, that number had been erased from the world, along with any trace that I'd ever existed. The convenience store's freezer hummed relentlessly, and my reflection in the glass door was a sorry sight: matted blonde hair, a faded bruise beneath my right eye, chapped lips split open, and a stolen men's jacket stained with mud and dried blood. I touched the scars on my face, souvenirs of 3 years in captivity, proof that I'd fought to survive. Yet it turned out, my perseverance had meant nothing to my family. A Mexican clerk handed me a glass of warm water, her eyes wary. "Do you need to call the police, miss?" I shook my head, my throat too tight to speak. 3 years ago, when the kidnappers broke into my Portland apartment, the sound of police sirens had faded 3 blocks away. Having smashed through a basement vent and crawled 2 miles through sewage pipes to escape, I couldn't risk falling into anyone's hands again. But now, I had nowhere left to run, no safe haven to call my own. My only hope was the home in Brooklyn. Mom and Dad had always said, "The house at 1927 with the white picket fence is our roots. Even if the sky falls, that house number will never change." I spent my last coins on a Greyhound ticket to New York, huddling in the back row by the window. As the scenery outside shifted from barren desert to dense cityscape, my heart tightened in my chest. I told myself over and over, maybe they just changed their number, maybe they're still looking for me. But a dark voice in my head grew louder: "They don't want to find you, you're a burden, Ethan's sick." They had to choose him. I dug my nails into my palm, forcing the thoughts away, but tears streamed down uncontrollably. If even my family couldn't accept me, what was the point of surviving? When the bus pulled into Brooklyn, the familiar streets nearly brought me to tears. The corner donut shop was still there, its pink neon sign flickering. The old oak tree at the intersection had grown thicker, its branches casting dappled shadows. I ran to 1927. The white picket fence was still standing, though the paint was peeling to reveal rusted metal. But as I reached for the doorbell, I froze. Attached to the door was a brand new black plaque with a stranger's name, Costa. Blood rushed to my head, then drained away, leaving me cold to the core. I stood rooted to the spot, my limbs heavy as lead. My mind went blank, and the only sound was that dark voice screaming, "See? They really don't want you." As I turned to leave, a middle-aged woman in a floral apron stood behind me, holding a grocery basket. "Who are you looking for?" "This used to be the Avery house. Thomas and Lena, they're my parents." "Did they move?" My voice was dry as sandpaper, each word feeling like it was torn from my throat. The woman thought for a moment. "They moved 2 years ago, didn't leave a contact. Mrs. Green next door has lived here for decades, she might know something." I stumbled to the next house. When the gray-haired Mrs. Green saw me, her expression turned complex. "Layla? You're alive?" Those words pierced the thin veil of calm I'd clung to. I was kidnapped. I escaped after 3 years. Why did my parents move? Why did they change their contact info? I grabbed her hands, my nails digging into her skin, desperate for an answer yet terrified of what I might hear. "Mrs. Green sighed. After you disappeared, they searched for you for a year, filed police reports, put up missing person flyers, ran ads. Lena waited outside the TV station every night until midnight, and Thomas traveled to every nearby city. But there was no trace of you. The police said, it was likely you'd met a terrible end. She paused, lowering her voice. Then Ethan was diagnosed with leukemia. The doctor said he needed a bone marrow transplant urgently, and the medical bills were hundreds of thousands of dollars. They sold everything they had, but it wasn't enough. In the end, they had to sell this house. Lena cried for days, saying, I can't lose another child. But they had no choice. They moved to California to try their luck. She handed me a crumpled piece of paper. This is the email Lena gave me. She said if I heard anything about you, I had to tell her. But I sent several emails, and they all bounced back. I clutched the paper with Mom's neat handwriting, my fingers icy. How's Ethan? The surgery was a success. Lena called a year ago, said he's recovering well. Stepping out of Mrs. Green's house, the sunlight was so bright it hurt my eyes, but my heart was shrouded in darkness. So I really had been a burden. For the sake of their living son, they'd easily abandoned the dead daughter. I thought back to my childhood, Mom holding me in her arms, saying, Layla, you're Mommy's precious girl, Dad sitting with me in the yard, counting stars, promising, my daughter will be happy forever. Those promises felt so hollow now. When faced with a life or death choice, I'd been the one left behind. I even began to wonder, had they canceled their phone number and moved just to erase me? To free themselves from the distraction of a missing daughter, to avoid the pain of losing me? At the library, I tried logging into the email on a public computer, but the system notified me the account didn't exist. I searched for Mom and Dad's names on social media, but found nothing. They'd vanished completely, as if Layla Avery had never existed. With barely any money left, I spent a cold autumn night on a park bench, huddled in the stolen jacket, staring at the stars. Dad had once said, every star represents someone you miss. But the people I missed wouldn't even send me a glimmer of light. I curled into a ball, tears falling silently. Why me? How could they abandon me so easily? If I'd known this would happen, I might as well have died in that basement. At least I wouldn't have to suffer the pain of betrayal by the ones I loved most. Early the next morning, I burst into the Brooklyn police station. Officer Marcus, a black man, pulled up my file. Layla Avery, 24 years old. Reported missing July 15, 2020. Case status, unsolved. Missing person record cancelled. Cancelled? I'm alive. I shot to my feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. My pent-up emotions erupted. How dare they? How could they cancel my identity? I'm their daughter. Officer Marcus sighed. New York state law allows canceling a missing person record if there's no lead for over 2 years. Your parents submitted the application in October 2022, they were extremely emotional. Mr. Thomas signed the papers almost in tears. He paused, looking at me gently. I understand your pain, but maybe they had their reasons. I'll look up their registered address in Los Angeles, you can try there. Holding that address, my heart was a jumble of emotions. On one hand, I ached to find them, to ask why they'd been so cruel. On the other, I feared what I might find, a family that had moved on, happier without me. But in the end, I bought a bus ticket with my last bit of money and set off again. I didn't sleep for 3 days and nights, my mind flooded with childhood memories, the smell of Mom's baking, Dad holding the back of my bike and saying, don't be afraid, Ethan pestering me to tell him bedtime stories. The very memories that had given me the courage to survive now cut me to the bone. I couldn't stop thinking, if I hadn't disappeared, would Ethan have gotten sick? If I hadn't been so stubborn, moving to Portland alone, would any of this have happened? Los Angeles was sweltering, and Chinatown was bustling with noise. I found the rundown apartment building listed in the address. Its walls were cracked, the hallways cluttered with junk, and a musty smell hung in the air. A man peeked out from apartment 302, a crack in the door. "Who are you looking for?" "Thomas and Lena Avery. Do they live here?" "Never heard of them. I've lived here 6 months, and the previous tenants didn't leave a contact." The door slammed shut, cutting off my last hope. I slid down the cold wall, sitting on the floor. The hallway light flickered on and off, casting pale shadows on my face. I dialed the canceled number again, sent a text that would never be read. Despair washed over me like a tidal wave. For 3 years, I'd endured beatings and captivity in a dark basement, stripped of my freedom, tortured until I was barely human. But I'd never given up, because I'd believed my family was waiting for me. Yet reality had dealt me the cruelest blow. They hadn't just abandoned me, they'd erased every trace of my existence, as if I'd never been born. I hugged my knees to my chest, burying my face as I sobbed uncontrollably. It turned out, the hell I'd escaped wasn't the scariest place on earth. Being abandoned by the people I loved most, that was true despair. I don't know how long I cried before someone tapped me on the shoulder. A woman in a red jacket, her accent Spanish, asked gently, "Are you okay?" Her name was Sophia, and she lived next door in 301. Through tears, I told her everything, my abduction, my escape, my shattered hope. She took my cold hand, her eyes filled with sympathy. "You're so brave to have escaped that place." "But my family doesn't want me anymore," I cried. "They chose my brother over me. I have nothing left, I don't know where to go." Sophia sighed, sitting down beside me. "Maybe they had their reasons. Your brother was sick, they must have been in so much pain." "Reasons?" I laughed bitterly. No reason could justify being this cruel. They didn't even leave a way to contact them, didn't give me an ounce of hope. That night, I stayed at Sophia's small apartment. It was clean and warm, filled with sunlight, and the spaghetti she cooked was the first hot meal I'd had in 3 years. But as I ate, tears fell again. It was the first kindness I'd received from a stranger, and it only made me miss the warmth of my family more, and hate their abandonment deeper. In the days that followed, Sophia helped me ask around, talking to longtime residents, shop owners, real estate agents, but no one had heard from Mom and Dad. I became more convinced, they were hiding from me on purpose. To them, their resurrected daughter was nothing but a trouble, a ghost that would stir up painful memories and disrupt their peaceful life with Ethan. I even thought, what if I do find them? They've already chosen Ethan. My return would only make things awkward for everyone. "Layla, surviving is a miracle," Sophia said, handing me a glass of warm milk. "Your family's choice isn't your fault. You're young, you can start over." Her words were like a faint light in the darkness, but the shadow over my heart was too heavy to lift. Still, I took her advice. With her help, I found a job as a waitress at a restaurant. The Italian owner was kind. When he heard my story, he advanced me a month's salary and helped me rent a small apartment. Days turned into weeks, and I slowly adjusted to my new life. I worked hard, saving money to open a small shop, trying to numb the pain with busyness. But every night, when silence fell, I thought of Mom, Dad, and Ethan. I'd take out the only photo I had from home, a picture of Ethan and me, him leaning on my shoulder, smiling brightly. I'd stare at it, wondering, do they really miss me? Does Ethan still remember his big sister? I'd search for their names online, clinging to the hope of finding even the smallest trace. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Los Angeles, Thomas and Lena were suffering too. After Ethan's surgery, they'd moved to a small town, living quietly. Every night, Lena would take out Layla's photo and cry until dawn. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked Thomas over and over. "If Layla's alive, will she hate us?" Thomas sat on the edge of the bed, holding Layla's missing person file, his eyes empty. He could never forget the agony of canceling her record. The kidnapper's threat still echoed in his ears: if you dare keep looking for Layla, you'll be burying your son. Back then, Ethan had been lying in the ICU, clinging to life, while Layla had vanished without a trace. He and Lena had stayed up all nights, debating, reaching for the phone to call the police, to keep searching for Layla, only to put it down, thinking of Ethan's fragile life. We can't lose Ethan, Thomas whispered through tears. But we can't give up on Layla either. We have to protect Ethan first, then keep searching for her in secret. In those days, they worked tirelessly during the day to pay off medical debts, and at night, they sent anonymous emails to the police and missing person organizations, attaching Layla's photo and description. Even when the emails bounced back, even when their efforts seemed futile, they never stopped. Lena kept a diary, filled with pages of longing for Layla, records of every failed search, each page soaked in pain and guilt. 3 months later, I was busy at the restaurant when a familiar voice made my blood run cold. Do you have a window seat available? It was Mom's voice, older than I remembered, but still etched into my bones. I turned slowly. Standing in the restaurant doorway was Mom, wearing a beige trench coat. Her hair had turned gray in places, and the wrinkles around her eyes were deeper. Beside her stood Dad, his back was slightly hunched, his face pale and haggard. And there was Ethan, taller now, his cheeks rosy and healthy, though his eyes held a hint of Ness. Our eyes met, and time seemed to stand still. Mom's eyes filled with tears instantly, her hand flying to her mouth as sobs racked her body. Dad froze, his expression a mix of shock, guilt, and profound pain. Ethan stared at me, curiosity and recognition flickering across his small face. Layla? Is it really you? Mom rushed forward, throwing her arms around me, crying uncontrollably. My baby girl. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Her embrace was still warm, but I stood stiff, my heart torn between anger and longing. Dad walked over, patting my back, his voice choked. Layla. I'm sorry. We had no choice. Mom, I whispered the word I'd repeated 1,000 times in my head. Tears poured out, and 3 years of grief, anger, longing, and despair erupted all at once. I pushed her away, sobbing. Why? Why did you abandon me? Why did you cancel my identity? Why didn't you leave any way to contact you? Do you have any idea how desperate I was, escaping, only to find you gone? Mom stumbled backward, crying harder. No, Layla, we didn't abandon you. You have to believe us. She took my hands, her voice urgent. 6 months after you disappeared, the kidnappers contacted us, using a voice changer. They said if we kept looking for you, they'd hurt Ethan. Back then, Ethan was in the ICU, dying. The doctors said he could leave us at any moment. Your father and I were torn apart, between you and Ethan. Every choice felt like a knife to the heart. Dad took over, his voice hoarse. We thought about you every single day. We blamed ourselves every minute. When we sold the house, your mom fainted several times. She kept saying, "This is our home, Layla grew up here." But we had no choice. Ethan's medical bills were too high. Canceling your record was the lawyer's idea. He said it would make the kidnappers think you'd been declared legally dead, maybe they'd let their guard down. And it would keep them from finding our new address through your records, from hurting Ethan, or you. He pulled a diary from his bag, handing it to me. This is your mom's diary. Read it, we never gave up on you. I opened the diary, and Mom's familiar handwriting filled the page. The first entry was dated the day after I disappeared. Layla, I know you're alive. I'll find you. Ethan's waiting for you to come home, to tell him bedtime stories. Every page after that was filled with their search, their pain, their struggles, their unwavering hope. Went to Portland today. Still no news of Layla. Thomas says not to give up, but I'm so tired. Ethan's surgery was a success, but I still miss Layla. I wonder where she is, if she's safe, if she's being hurt. Sent another email, bounced back again. Layla, where are you? As I read, tears streamed down my face, my anger melting into heartache. I missed you every day, sister. Ethan's small voice cut through the silence. He pulled a crumpled photo from his pocket, handing it to me. I hid this. Mom said I shouldn't look at it, it would make me sad. But I couldn't help it. I wanted to remember you. The photo showed me with a ponytail, smiling brightly, Ethan little and clinging to my shoulder, a half-eaten cookie in his hand. It was taken a month before I disappeared. I never thought he'd keep it all this time. We never stopped looking for you, Mom said, squeezing my hand, her fingers cold. After moving to Los Angeles, we sent anonymous emails to every police department and missing person organization we could find, attaching your photo, your description. But we never got a reply. Once Ethan recovered, we traveled to every city in California, putting up flyers. We never gave up hope. Dad added, it was Ethan who found you. He saw a review of this restaurant online. Someone mentioned a waitress named Layla, with blonde hair and a faint scar under her right eye. It matched your childhood description. He insisted we come see. We never thought, we never dared hope it would really be you. I'm so sorry, Layla, Mom said, pulling me into her arms again, her body shaking with sobs. Your father and I were cowards. We were too scared to risk it, to keep searching for you and put Ethan in danger. You suffered so much alone. Every night, we prayed for your safety, prayed we'd see you again. But we were terrified that our prayers would lead the kidnappers to you. Dad's eyes were red as he spoke. Every time I thought about you, trapped in some dark place, hurting, scared, and us, hiding to protect Ethan, I wanted to punish myself. But Ethan was so small, so fragile. We had no other choice. I looked at their haggard faces, at Ethan's hopeful eyes, and down at the diary in my hands. The last of my anger faded away. I realized they hadn't stopped loving me. They'd been trapped in an impossible choice, between two children they loved more than life itself. I wrapped my arms around Mom, my voice trembling. I understand, Mom. I don't blame you anymore. In that moment, all the misunderstandings, grief, and despair melted away in our embrace. The restaurant's customers glanced over, their faces filled with concern. The owner walked over, handing us tissues with a smile. Glad everything's okay. Nothing matters more than family being together. That night, we didn't go back to my small apartment. Instead, we drove to the small town outside Los Angeles where Mom, Dad, and Ethan lived. Their house had a little yard, and in it, rows of sunflowers, my favorite flower. We planted them for you, Ethan said. Mom and Dad said when you came home, you'd get to see them bloom. The house was small but warm and tidy. Hanging on the living room wall was a large family photo, the one taken before I disappeared, all of us smiling brightly. This is your room, Mom said, leading me down the hallway. The decor was almost identical to my old room in Brooklyn, my favorite books on the desk, the same pastel curtains, even the stuffed rabbit I'd had as a child sitting on the bed. We clean it every day. We always hoped, we always knew you'd come back. As I looked around, tears fell again. They'd never forgotten me. They'd never given up on me. In the weeks that followed, we slowly rebuilt our family. Mom and Dad took me to see a therapist. After every session, Dad would take me for walks in the park, listening quietly as I talked about the fear and trauma I'd carried for 3 years. Mom cooked all my favorite meals, trying to make up for the years we'd lost. Ethan clung to my side, begging me to tell him stories of my adventure. I left out the cruel parts, focusing only on how the thought of my family had given me the strength to escape. He dragged me to the supermarket, to the movies, to the amusement park, determined to make up for all the time we'd missed together. Sophia visited often, bringing homemade pastries. She smiled as she watched us laughing and talking. I knew it. Good people deserve happiness, Layla. You've been through so much, you deserve all this and more. A few months later, I quit my job at the restaurant. With the money I'd saved and Mom and Dad's support, I opened a small bakery. I named it Sunflower Home, after the flowers that had welcomed me back, after the hope and warmth my family and friends had given me. The signature item was longing cookies, made from Mom's old recipe, the same taste I'd missed for 3 years. Customers often said eating them felt like coming home. Mom and Dad helped out at the bakery when they could, and Ethan joined us after school, eager to be my little assistant. Watching the smiles on our customers' faces, feeling my family around me, I was filled with a deep sense of happiness. The dark days were behind me. I was no longer the lonely, abandoned girl I'd been. I was loved, I was safe, I was home. A year later, we moved back to Brooklyn. We didn't buy the old house at 1927, instead, we found a small house with a white picket fence nearby, just like our old home. On moving day, Mrs. Green stopped by, her face lighting up when she saw me. Layla, it's so good to have you home. I smiled and nodded, my heart at peace. I realized home wasn't a house or a number. It was the people you loved, the ones who loved you back, no matter what. That afternoon, I took Mom, Dad, and Ethan to visit 1927. The white picket fence was still there, though the new owners had repainted the door and planted colorful flowers in the yard. The corner donut shop was still open, its pink neon sign flickering. The old oak tree was taller than ever, its branches casting thick, cool shadows. I stood in front of the house that held so many childhood memories, my family beside me, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Grateful to have escaped, grateful to Mom and Dad for never giving up, grateful to Sophia for her kindness, and grateful to the girl I'd been, for refusing to lose hope. Ethan tugged at my hand, pointing at the house number. Sister, this number is pretty, but I like our number better. I ruffled his hair, smiling. Me too, Ethan. Our number is the best in the whole world. The sun set, painting the sky golden. Its warm light wrapped around us, bright and hopeful. I knew the pain of the past was gone forever. The future stretched out before us, filled with love and happiness. The rusty house number at 1927 would always be a part of me, a reminder of where I'd been, of the strength I'd found, of the family that had never truly left me. But now, I had something far more precious, a new life, a new hope, and a family that would never let me go. I squeezed Mom and Dad's hands tightly, and Ethan wrapped his arms around my waist. Together, we walked toward the setting sun, smiling, hopeful, and finally, truly home.